Sir! Sir! Can you hear me? Stay with me!
Please.
Don't leave me!
You saved my life. I just did what anyone should have done. No, nobody else stopped.
He hadn't eaten in 2 days, but when he saw a man collapse on the sidewalk, he didn't think twice. What he didn't know was that this one decision would change his life forever, and what he discovered 3 weeks later would leave him speechless. Stay till the end, because the secret this billionaire was hiding, nobody saw coming. It was a cold November night in downtown Chicago. Ray Coleman had been homeless for almost 4 years. He used to be an engineer, a good one, but a divorce, a layoff, and one bad year had taken everything from him. His savings were gone first, then his apartment, then slowly his sense of who he even was. People used to call him Sir. Now they crossed the street to avoid him. He still remembered what it felt like to have a desk with his name on it. Some nights he'd walk past his old office building just to look up at the lights, wondering if anyone even remembered him. That night, he was pushing his shopping cart past a row of glass office towers. The wind was brutal. His jacket had more holes than fabric. He was heading toward the shelter, hoping there'd still be a bed left. That's when he heard it. A heavy thud, followed by silence. A well-dressed man had collapsed right there on the pavement. His face was pale. His lips were turning blue. People walked past him. A few glanced. Nobody stopped. Ray didn't hesitate. He dropped everything he owned and ran to the man's side. He checked his pulse. It was weak, fading fast. Ray had learned CPR years ago, back when he still had a normal life, a job, a name badge, a future. He started compressions immediately, counting under his breath. Come on, stay with me. Seconds felt like hours. His arms burned, his knees scraped against the cold concrete. Finally, sirens echoed in the distance. Paramedics rushed in and took over. Before they loaded him into the ambulance, the man's eyes fluttered open for just a moment. He looked directly at Ray, and he whispered something nobody expected. Don't leave. Ray didn't understand why a total stranger would say that to him, but something in the man's eyes told him this wasn't just gratitude. It felt like fear. The paramedics allowed Ray to ride along, since he was the one who had kept the man alive. At the hospital, doctors rushed the man straight into the ICU. Ray sat in the waiting room for hours, still in his torn coat, still covered in dirt from the street. Nurses gave him strange looks. Security almost asked him to leave twice. But he stayed, because something told him this wasn't over. 2 days later, a nurse finally approached him. He's asking for you. Ray walked into the hospital room, unsure of what to expect. The man in the bed looked completely different from the one lying on the pavement. Machines beeped steadily around him. A thin oxygen tube rested under his nose. But his eyes were sharp now, alert, watching Ray closely. You saved my life, the man said quietly. I just did what anyone should have done, huh? Ray replied. The man let out a small, tired laugh. Nobody else did. They just watched. There was a long pause. Then the man said something that caught Ray completely off guard. Do you know who I am? Ray shook his head. No, sir. Should I? The man's expression shifted, somewhere between relief and sadness. My name is Walter Kessler. Ray's stomach dropped. Everyone in the city knew that name. Walter Kessler was one of the wealthiest men in America, a billionaire investor. His face had been on magazine covers for decades, but what Ray didn't know yet was the real reason Walter was out on that sidewalk alone, at night with no bodyguards, no driver, not even a phone. Over the next few days, Ray kept visiting. Walter insisted on it. He said Ray was the only person who treated him like a human being instead of a wallet. Slowly, carefully, Walter began to open up. He told Ray that his own family hadn't spoken to him in over a year. His children were already fighting over his inheritance before he had even died. His closest advisors had been quietly moving money out of his accounts. That night, Walter had found out about a plan to have him declared mentally unfit so his own family could take control of his fortune. He'd been so shaken he had walked out of his penthouse on foot, no security, no phone, just trying to clear his head. That's when his heart gave out alone, on a sidewalk full of strangers. If Ray hadn't been there, Walter would have died right there, and no one would have even known why he was out that night. Ray sat in silence, absorbing all of it. The richest man in the room was the loneliest person he had ever met. Ray thought about his own family, the ones who had stopped calling once he lost his job. He realized that loneliness didn't care how much money was in your bank account. It could find you in a mansion just as easily as it found him under a bridge. For the first time in years, Ray felt like someone actually needed him. Not his money, not his name, just him. A week later, Walter called Ray into his room one final time before being discharged. His voice was different now, steady, determined. "I've made some calls," Walter said. "I'm restructuring my estate, effective immediately." Ray assumed Walter meant simply protecting himself from his family. But then Walter said the words that changed everything. "I'm naming you as a trustee of my foundation." Ray blinked, certain he had misheard. "Sir, I'm homeless. I have nothing." Walter shook his head. "You had nothing to gain by saving me. That's exactly why I trust you." He explained that the foundation would fund shelters, job training programs, and medical care for people just like Ray, people the world had quietly given up on. And Ray wouldn't just be a name attached to the story. He would help run it. He would decide where the help went. The man who had been invisible to the world just weeks earlier was about to change thousands of lives. 6 months later, the first shelter funded by the foundation opened its doors, just 3 blocks from where Walter had collapsed. Ray stood outside it on opening day, wearing a clean jacket for the first time in years. He looked up at the sign above the door, and for a moment he didn't recognize the man reflected in the glass. He wasn't invisible anymore. Ray Coleman didn't save Walter Kessler's life because he expected anything in return. He did it because, even after losing everything, he hadn't lost who he was. And in the end, that was the one thing money could never buy. Sometimes the people society overlooks are the ones who end up saving it. The next time you walk past someone the world has forgotten, remember Ray. You never know whose life they might be waiting to save. If this story moved you, hit subscribe because we share real, powerful stories like this every single week. Drop a comment below. What would you have done if you saw someone collapse on the street? And if you believe kindness still matters in this world, give this video a like before you go.